Baltimore Mercy Hospital. Number 13. What is a pastor? Okay, the last one, the Holy of Holies, is confession and communion. That atmosphere is that's the Holy of Holies. That's the holiest place. That's the mercy seat. Here I am in Mercy Hospital. We're talking about the mercy seat. Now, what is a pastor? Number one, if the confession and communion core of the church is not in place, then the pastoring is actually not going to be happening, because the definition of a pastor is the person who is hearing the troubles and sufferings that are being cheerfully tossed down, and that person is responsible to making the decisions from the Holy Spirit to help that person be in activities or out of activities that helps them not have to have so many, troubles or confessions or faults to throw down in the times before prayer, and especially in the communion times. So, A, if the confession and communion is not in place, then B, a pastor who's supposed to be hearing people's troubles as a primary operation is not really being a pastor. The people that we consider and call pastors nowadays would be called a congregational leader in the early Christian times, like Jairus, the leader of the synagogue. Today, the title of pastor is referring to a person who would be called a deacon elder or a deacon teacher in the early church. I mean, you got this person who was trained in a seminary, trained to be a teacher of information, and that person's being trotted out, and they're giving teaching presentations, and they're being paid by the peoples. That's a teacher. That is not a shepherd of souls. And a lot of times those people are also trained in the business of running spiritual activities and ministries, so they are a business person, which is basically what the word diakonos, which means servant. So they're a servant regarding the business of the spiritual activities. So they're a teacher and they're a business person, but they're not necessarily a shepherd of souls. They're not necessarily a person who even has the equipment to hear people's troubles in a communion group, and they may not actually be directed to do those things. So, the term pastor is very treacherous. I have been to so many places where I've seen people frustrated and upset with the pastor. And the Holy Spirit has said to me, well, they're frustrated with the pastor because this person is not actually a pastor. A person is a business person and a good teacher, but this person does not have the gift of shepherding and guiding souls. This person has a gift of making a presentation of information and getting people together. So no wonder they're frustrated with him, because he's not really a pastor, and they want their needs and hurts to be heard. Then there's other pastors that I've been among, and God has said, now this person is a true pastor, but he has on him the burden of all these meeting times and church infrastructure and all this business stuff, and he's not acclimated to business stuff. So it gets really funky. It gets very funky. So watch out, because the term pastor you find once in the New Testament. And the term one another, we're dealing with helping out, counseling, guiding one another. One another appears 58 times in the New Testament. Pastor appears one time. That's pretty wild. Beware of the term pastor. Beware of the term pastor. I encourage people not even to use that term, because it is loaded with, it's a churchianity term that is loaded with error and missing things. So, what is a pastor?